Free the land. All power to the people. Brothers and sisters, we have an outstanding presenter tonight. I'm going to be as short-winded as I can with this introduction because this is impromptu. I didn't know it was going to be me, but it's me. But brother wanted to pass the bucket. I don't know where it went. Okay, let Brother Emil do that for us right now. We want you to do something. I see a lot of faces in here, a lot of you unknown, and if I don't see no hands going in that bucket, you know I know your numbers. We got the database.
It's called charity.
So please do the best that you can, put something in that bucket. Tonight we have an outstanding presentation. We're honored to have Brother Khalid Abdul Muhammad here as our guest. Brother Khalid is no stranger to the Los Angeles area. For many years he was the Western Regional Representative and the Minister here at Temple 27 for the Nation of Islam. I know that many of you know him personally like I do. And just briefly, I want to just share some personal reflections about Brother Khalid. He may not remember, but back in around 1980-81, myself and Brother Ron Jordan X we were going to school together. And at that time, we were brothers that were just out there, hustling and doing whatever else you could imagine. And somebody gave us a tape of Brother Minister Farrakhan and Brother Malcolm X, and we were doing some unthinkable things while we were listening. And that spurred us to go into what was the Black Topographical Center that was down the street here on Crenshaw, where the mall is now. And the very first person that ever taught us anything about the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's message, is Brother Khalid. And from that moment, we've been on fire ever since. We stopped doing or carrying on with the negative vices that we had. From that moment, me and my good friend have been doing some outstanding things in the community in terms of organizing and pinpointing who the enemy is and confronting them. The Million Man March is an issue that many of you have come here to hear an explanation about, to find out why we should be involved with it. Some of you I know have questions. Some of you have comments that you want to make, and I'm sure Brother will exchange ideas with us all. I am very happy to have the brother here in the Good Life. This is now really the world famous Good Life. I mean, we have everybody here. When they come through and they want to talk to the community, they got to come here. I know it's small, but it's mighty. This is the nucleus in the black communities, right here out of these walls. So, brothers and sisters, without further ado, I know we've been waiting a long time. I'm going to bring Brother Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad forward, and I would like all of you to stand and give our brother a black hand. Give it up.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. We forever thank Almighty God, Allah, for coming as it was written and prophesied that He would come to seek and to save that which was lost. And we can find no other people fitting the description of the lost brother, the lost sister, or the lost sheep, except we, the 50 million or more, mentally and spiritually dead, black men and black women here in the hells of North America. And so we thank Him for coming, the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to raise up His messenger and His Messiah, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we thank the two of them for the man who has become the champion for the liberation and salvation of the black nation. I speak of none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. In their names, I greet you, my beloved and beautiful brothers and sisters here at the Good Life, with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Hotel. Alafia. Shalom. Free the land. Black laws. What's up? It's indeed my honor and my pleasure and my great joy to be back in the city that I have dedicated so much of my blood, sweat, and tears in over the years. And to be here at the Good Life, which has become a focal point and a center where much information and communion and communication and good health and well-being and that which is essential to the mind, the heart, the soul, and the spirit, this place, this atmosphere is where much of that comes from. And to stand in this spot where many have stood who are making a great contribution to the resurrection and rise of our people, to Minister Wazir Muhammad, to the great historian and scholar in our midst, Brother Ashra Kwesi. And let's give both of them a strong black hand. Sister Ifa Sade and others who make this possible. Let's give them a hand. Brother Jamal. Promise not to be long, but I must be strong. And we will, of course, have a question and answer period. 30 years ago, Minister Malcolm X, El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, Brother Omar Wali, experienced great trial and great tribulation in his life that ultimately led to his murder and his assassination. In brief, we want to touch on that life, the life of his teacher, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and touch on the drama that has unfolded for the second time, 30 years later, almost to the day, to the week, to the month, to the year, between Minister Khalid Muhammad and his leader and teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. In addition to the great scholar and historian, Brother Ashra Kwesi, we see Dr. Ofari, who has just walked in the door with his queen. Let's give him a black hand. Also, the assassination of the black male image. Please get him a seat for the queen and him. Please make sure that you get them a seat. FOI, work with them. We are taught that of all our studies, history is best qualified and most attractive to reward our research. That if we know what happened yesterday, we can intelligently discuss today, because today is built on yesterday and tomorrow is built on today. And if we know what happened, if we know what went down yesterday, then we're not likely to let the same thing go down today. Malcolm X, born May 19th, 1925, looked like any ordinary baby as he came from the womb of his beautiful mother and his blue-black father, the Reverend Earl Little, and Sister Louise, I believe. These parents from the island were parents of destiny and gave birth to a baby or a child, I repeat, of destiny. And so Malcolm shaped and molded and groomed and fashioned under the tradition and in a household where the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey was taught on a daily and consistent basis. One God, one aim, one destiny. Europe for the Europeans, Asia for the Asians, and Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. The red, the black, and the green. Given to us at that great international conference of the UNIA African Communities League in New York City at Madison Square Garden. The red being for the blood of black people that has been spilled at the hands of our enemy and our oppressor. But I remind you that the red is also for the blood of our enemy and oppressor that must be shed if we are to gain freedom and independence. The red is also in scripture and in prophecy under the scriptural type and heading of the Red Sea. For there can be no freedom, there can be no independence, there can be no liberation unless there's the spilling and the shedding of blood. None of us have come to birth here in the good life under the sound of my voice to live the good life. None of us have come to birth except through our mothers going through fainting and pain and ultimately the shedding of blood. And a revolution took place in the womb of mother. The head was at the top and the feet were at the bottom, but the baby went through a revolution. And when the revolution took place, then the head was at the mouth of the womb and the feet were at the top, and the head crowned after the revolution. And then the baby burst forth out of the triple blackness and darkness of his mother's womb into the manifest light of the good life. And as it burst forth, not separate from life, but as an entity that is actually a link in that great chain or that great continuum called life. And so the red represents that blood that must be shed. As it says, we must go through the Red Sea in order to get to the promised land. And the Red Sea, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teach us that the Red Sea represents war, bloodshed, and revolution. That in order for us to be free, we're going to have to move beyond just sipping tea. We're going to have to move just beyond having a mystic and a ginger beer now and then here at the Good Life. In order to get free, it's going to have to move beyond just a poem. If poetry could get us free, if rap could get us free, and if rapping could get us free, we would have been free a long time ago. In order for us to get to the promised land, we've got to go again through the Red Sea. In order for us to enjoy the good life of freedom, justice, and equality, liberation and salvation, some blood must be shed. There must be some fighting, killing, bleeding, and dying. And it must be more on the side of our enemy toward our victory than on our side. The black represents the black man, the black woman, the black child, the black family, the black nation. And the green represents land. For land, Mr. Garvey said, is the basis of independence. There is no independence unless there's land. There's no mistake that they call land real estate. Real estate. Land is the basis of independence. And so Mr. Garvey gave us all of these wonderful principles of liberation and put us in tune with the rhythm of our blackness again. Mr. Garvey spoke of one coming after him. Mr. Garvey spoke of himself, his spirit, his mind returning again. He said it might return in a whirlwind. He said it might return in an earthquake. He said it might return many different ways. He said, but look for me. Look for me, Mr. Garvey said. He said, for I will be returning draped in the red, the black, and the green, the colors that you know so well. And so we know that Mr. Garvey has returned. For again, we are but links in the chain of life. We are but a part of this great continuum called life. And so since the mind of revolution is one mind, and since the will to breathe free against the oppressor is one mind, it is an eternal mind until we gain freedom and independence. And so Garvey comes back over and over and over again until black people gain freedom and independence. And so a little black man born in Sandersville, Georgia, named Elijah Poole, later to be known as the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, came in the tradition of Mr. Garvey. We don't have any argument with that. The Bible says that John the Baptist baptized Jesus in the muddy river of the Jordan. But John the Baptist spoke of one who was coming after him. John the Baptist baptized Jesus, but he spoke of the coming of Jesus later down the line. The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey indeed marked black people and the black movement before the most honorable Elijah Muhammad came on the scene. And so the FOI, the Fruit of Islam today, resembles the African Legion of Mr. Garvey. And so the MGT GCC class, draped in their white crowns and gowns, represent and look like the Black Cross nurses of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So the baptism took place, and later the Messiah arrives on the scene. Malcolm grew up in this environment. And later Malcolm, through trial and tribulation and dysfunctional home and all of this, scattered, his father killed by the Ku Klux Klan on the railroad track. All of this, his mother driven insane. Malcolm X grew up. And Malcolm ultimately went to a life of what the white man would call crime. Really, there are no criminals that are black in America, because the way this thing is set up and the way it's stacked against us, all black men and women in jail and in prison are political prisoners, though we must make a distinction between a Mumia Abu Jamal and a Geronimo Pratt and a purse snatcher. But there are degrees of being political prisoners. Let's make that clear. Everybody all right? All right. If you get too hot, just go get a Mystic, or if you get too hot, go and get some of the cool spring water, or sit down and eat some of this very wholesome food here as we work on the good life. Malcolm ultimately ended up under the teaching and program of the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Very few black organizations, probably none, would have accepted Malcolm in as an ex-convict, one who had lived a life of a hustler, a drug dealer, a cheap pimp, a chaser of white women, and a misuser and abuser of the black woman, but one born gifted and one born with certain unique qualities and characteristics. Very few would have been able to see past Malcolm's faults and see Malcolm's qualities and his gifts and his needs. But the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad looked past all of that, and he saw a diamond in the rough. He saw in Malcolm something that others overlooked. And so he started teaching Malcolm and shaping Malcolm and fashioning Malcolm and molding Malcolm into a magnificent man, a magnificent black man and human being. And so Malcolm roared out of prison with an 8th grade education, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had a 3rd grade education. And with Malcolm and Elijah together, 8th grade and 3rd grade, they put America in shock in the 11th hour. And the two of them wreaked hell and havoc and terror on the white man. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. attacked the laws and social values of America and the white man. But the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X attacked the very root of the belief system of the white man and went to the very root teaching to uproot and ferret out from the minds and hearts of black men and women that which had enslaved us for so long. But there came a time when this great preacher of freedom, justice, and equality, molded and fashioned and shaped by the most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that he would come to a point which became the crossroads in his life, as Dr. John Henry Clark would say. He came to the crossroads in his life. Malcolm made a speech on the East Coast. His trial really started in the month of November, 1963. In the month of November 1963, an old no-good cracker named John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated. They blew his damn head off, blew his brains all in his wife's face and all over her beads and pearls and stuff. And she jumped out of the limousine trying to run. John Fitzgerald Kennedy was killed. He was an international gangster, a notorious outlaw. He came from a criminal family and a criminal background. And it appeared that there was such a negative karma against this family. Everybody died everywhere. Plane crashes, dying. The parakeet died. The goldfish died. The cat, the dog. Anything with Kennedy on it was dying all kinds of ways. The mother would have to bear all of this pain of the loss of life all around her. But they were gamblers. They were bootleggers, they were gangsters, they were racketeers, they ran a criminal enterprise. And ultimately, they cleaned up their act the way you saw in the last episode of The Godfather, cleaned up their act for the public to so-called, quote, unquote, legitimize their criminality. And then they ran their sons for senator. They ran their sons for political office, and ultimately ran their son for president of the United States of America. And he became president. But he was an international murderer and a bloodsucker of the masses of the peoples of the earth who yearn to breathe free. And so Malcolm made his famous speech after that November 63 assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Malcolm made his great speech, God's judgment against white America. And in that speech, Malcolm said it was a case of the chickens coming home to roost. And he said, I'm a farm boy, and chickens coming home to roost never made me sad, always made me glad. But Malcolm was instructed by his teacher to tone his language and not to make any mention. All of the ministers were told to make no mention of John Fitzgerald Kennedy's assassination. But Malcolm, I don't know what happened that day. And many times I've told audiences that I agonized to this very day trying to study, trying to get up into the mind of Malcolm, trying to understand what happened. A white reporter, I believe it was, a smart, crooked deceiver planted in the audience, stands up in the audience. You always got them like that. Even in the scripture, Jesus, the black revolutionary Messiah, everywhere he went, there was a smart, crooked deceiver somewhere in the audience. Jesus would teach, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, notice here, he's saying that the love of your neighbor is predicated on love for yourself. But I won't stop there. He said, love your neighbor as yourself. And the smart, crooked deceiver stands up in the audience and says, Mr. Jesus. Excuse me, Mr. Jesus. Who is my neighbor? And Jesus would start skating. He would go to a parable on them. He knew how to maneuver around them. Jesus was speaking of taxes, the black revolutionary Messiah. I'm not talking about some blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pale-skinned, buttermilk complexion cracker Christ. I'm talking about the black Jesus of the Bible. I'm talking about the black Messiah of Scripture. I'm talking about the Jesus who's had body like jasper, a body like beryl. Another scripture says his body was like fine brass or bronze, as though it had been burnt in an oven. Another scripture said he would have hair like lamb's wool. He would have nappy hair. He would have that good hair, the kind of hair that many of us used to have before it got fried and dyed and laid to the side. Before we got our scary curls and Jerry curls dripping all over the place and dripping all over everybody. Hate to see you coming to sit down on their couch or get in their car because they know you're going to leave a big, large spot, a large spot somewhere on the upholstery. Blonde wigs walking around Hollywood and Los Angeles. Black women, blue black, purple black, got the Mary J. Blige look. Looking like a damn fool with blonde hair on your silly black nappy head. Or you got weaves here in California, more weave than body weight. My little son Farrakhan, 10, he told me, Daddy, if they can't grow it, they sew it. He said, if they can't renew it, they glue it. If they can't retrieve it, they weave it. He did tell me that. And he asked me, he said, you gonna use that one, Daddy? I gotta tell him I used it. You think blondes have more fun? You out of your damn mind. You think blondes have more fun? Ask Nicole Brown Simpson. She'll tell you. She'll tell you whether blondes have more fun or not. Blondes have more fun. She almost completely lost her head over this foolishness and ultimately lost her life. But that's another subject. I'm going to deal before the evening is over with the Uncle Tom Japanese judge. The Uncle Tom, I never seen an Uncle Tom Japanese. This is some new stuff. I've heard of deja vu, but this stuff is vuja day. Some of this stuff never happened before. There's an Uncle Tom Japanese sitting up hooting and pontificating on the bench every day and got to go home to that fat, ugly, nasty-looking white wife of his who's a top cop on the police department. In the hell can he rule fairly in the courtroom against the police department when he's got to go home and sleep with this dog when he gets home? Uncle Tom Japanese. I mean, that's an exotic Tom. Japanese Tom. Huh? With a sushi flavor. This is some serious teriyaki stuff. Jumping off here in Los Angeles. But another subject. For we'll come back to the Uncle Tom Japanese judge, Ito, in a few minutes. But look at it, brothers and sisters, and look at it very, very carefully. I want to move from that point and move back. Jesus, the scripture says, is a black man, the black revolutionary Messiah. But the white man has given us his image so that we would bow down to him and accept him as God. But when we look at this and look at it carefully and just move that to the side for a moment, Malcolm X came under this great teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This changed Malcolm's life. This transformed Malcolm as a man. Malcolm became a great respecter and one with great honor for the black woman. Malcolm came to believe that no nation could rise higher than its woman. Where there were no decent women, there could be no decent men, because women are the first teachers, the first nurses, the first nurturers, the first doctors. They don't call it the father tongue, they call it the mother tongue. And so Malcolm came to honor and respect and love and come to desire to protect the black woman after coming in contact with Elijah. This was a wonderful relationship. But Malcolm made his speech on the East Coast and made the statement of the chickens coming home to roost. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad suspended Malcolm from the ministry. He suspended Malcolm to the shock of many from his position of assistant and national spokesman. Many were in absolute shock to see the great Malcolm X silenced. No longer the minister to speak from the rostrum at the famous Harlem Mosque, Mosque number 7 at 116th and Lenox Avenue, a famous corner. For it had been the very same corner, 116th and Lenox Avenue, where the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey had Liberty Hall. And then after Malcolm, we of course know that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan came to be minister on that very corner. And from this city, one who trained and taught many of us in the military and in the captaincy, Imam Ali Rashid came to be imam in that very same spot, a spot of history. Malcolm was silenced. Malcolm was set down. Malcolm was suspended from the ministry. And many again were in absolute shock. A statement came out in the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. On one of the newspapers around that time, maybe even the same issue, had a picture of John Fitzgerald Kennedy on the cover of the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. Many black people wondered, yo, what's up? What is this? Why is the president the devil, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, on the cover of the Muhammad Speaks newspaper? John Ali, the national secretary at that time, believed by some to this very day to be a government operative working on the inside of the Nation of Islam, but no concrete proof has been actually presented so that he could be really indicted and whatever else goes along with that. I'll leave that for the side and move on. But John Ali, the national secretary, came out against him. His brothers were given statements, according to them, to read against Malcolm. So Malcolm felt betrayed. Malcolm felt hurt, I'm sure. Malcolm found all around him that those who he felt were his friends and close to him, he felt had turned on him. They felt that they had to make a choice between the father and the son. And they felt that the son had made a serious mistake by not following the father's instructions, so they couldn't back the son if they felt that he was wrong. And so they went with Malcolm. But this meant with his own blood brothers. This meant with those that he had brought in the nation, those who had studied under him, been trained by him, taught by him. Now they had all, as far as Malcolm was concerned, I'm sure, had turned on him. 90 days, Malcolm was suspended from the ministry and from spokesman and silent. But after the 90 days turned to indefinite due to other developments and circumstances that cropped up in the interim. A broken-hearted Malcolm then set out on a world tour throughout Africa. He met with great revolutionaries. He studied revolution all over the world. He met with heads of state and leaders throughout Africa and other parts of the world. All the time, Gay Edgar Hoover, you know Gay Edgar Hoover. They call him J. Edgar Hoover, but he's Gay Edgar Hoover. Gay Edgar Hoover of the FBI and the counterintelligence program set out to murder Malcolm X and to divide Malcolm from his teacher, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. They worked on Malcolm. Newspapers came out. The great Malcolm X has been silenced. The great Malcolm X, in words, has the dunce cap on his head and has been directed to the corner by Elijah Muhammad. They worked on Malcolm's ego. Voice stress analysts, psychiatrists, psychologists, sociologists, and others of white folks studied Malcolm, probed Malcolm, and determined how to reach Malcolm. Ultimately, so many things happened around Malcolm until Malcolm was so hurt until he started to speak out against his teacher. Malcolm's home was firebombed. It was the parsonage or the home of the Nation of Islam, and whoever the minister of Mosque number 7 was to live in that home. Malcolm, being the present minister, but once he was suspended, was asked to move from the property. Ultimately, that property was firebombed. Malcolm's family had to go out into the cold. Malcolm had to pick up the gun, and Malcolm had to walk with vigilance to protect his life. The enemy stepped into a void and created a climate and an atmosphere where Malcolm could be assassinated and his body could be laid at the door of the Nation of Islam and the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. The white man is wickedly wise and knows exactly how to maneuver. Now I'm coming to my point. Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon really, February 21st, 1965, in the Audubon Auditorium, Malcolm X was shot down in cold blood. It was set up so that no white folks pulled the trigger. As Chuck D in Public Enemy would say, and a nigger pulled the trigger. It was set up that way so that black people would not go on the wild, that black people would not revolt. There would be no insurrection among black people because there would be no white enemy that they could go after. And so it would be done at the hands of black men. Malcolm X was shot down. Mortuaries funeral homes in New York were afraid to take Malcolm's body. They were afraid that if they took Malcolm's body, that there would be shooting in the mortuary. They were afraid that the mortuary would be blown up. It would be burned down. And only one stepped forward to allow Malcolm's body to be prepared and took the risk for Malcolm's body to come through there and be viewed. Why did I give this history? Again, of all our studies, history is best qualified and most attractive to reward our research. When you receive the keys to a test, the answers to the test, you're supposed to be able to pass the test. If somebody else has taken the test before you and they leave you the answer, there's really no reason for you to fail. You're supposed to be compelled to pass. After Malcolm, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was labeled a hypocrite in the Nation of Islam. Malcolm was the first great national spokesman. There was another before him, Minister Sultan Muhammad, but history records Malcolm as the first great national spokesman. After him, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Malcolm said to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he said, "Brother, I wish it were you being an example for me instead of me being an example for you." He said, "One day, Brother Louis, my enemies are going to be your enemies." And so Minister Farrakhan grew right up and came to face the same enemies that Malcolm had to face. He was labeled as a hypocrite. There were those who wanted to kill him, and all kinds of plots were being formed inside and outside of the house to kill Minister Farrakhan. And as he gained notoriety and popularity, the plot thickened to murder Louis Farrakhan. Ultimately, in 1975, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed and left. And Minister Farrakhan, it was believed, would fight for the throne, would fight to sit in the seat over the house, to sit in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's seat. And so that day in February, at Savior's Day, they came to kill him. Guns everywhere. They expected him to use the soldiers of Mosque number 7 to try to seize power that day. And so when he stood up to speak, they posted guards around him, ready to snatch him from the stage or even kill him in front of everyone so that they would put down that kind of threat and discourage it from that day on. And the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Wallace D. Muhammad, ascended the throne that day and became the new leader and led the Nation of Islam back onto the plantation. American flags, 4th of July parades, floats dedicated to the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, New World Patriotism Days, made speeches saying that if America was attacked by an African or a Muslim nation, that he would fight on the side of America against an African nation, against a Muslim nation, that he wouldn't jump up out of his government, he said, America, to defend an African or a Muslim nation against America. November 1993, in Union, New Jersey, at Keene College, I was invited by the Black Student Organization on that campus. Seemed like any other speaking engagement, and the usual protest, nothing really unusual. A small band of so-called Jews outside calling for the death, calling for the murder of Minister Farrakhan. Others passing out leaflets and flyers against my speech that day. My subject was the secret relationship between blacks and Jews. The secret relationship between blacks and Jews from the Historical Research Department of the Nation of Islam that had done extensive study on the role of the so-called Jews during the slave trade. The students chose the subject for me, And since the so-called Jews had irritated me so much in calling for the death and the murder of my leader outside, I couldn't do what I had done here in Los Angeles. I really didn't have the posse with me. But here in Los Angeles, they had called for his death at the convention center. We organized a posse of able-bodied men, and we went out and beat the hell out of them and ran them down the street. And the news came out that night and showed me on Irv Rubin moving and the others running and me all on Rubin, and Rubin scared to death. And it came out that night, the news reporter said, if the Jewish Defense League intended to make a serious statement here at the Los Angeles Convention Center, it certainly was muffled quickly by the Fruit of Islam forces. This is so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so news. And, but I didn't have men in New Jersey. The minister was there from Newark. I didn't feel that they were with me that much. So I couldn't organize to go out and drive the Jews away from the door calling for Minister Farrakhan's death. So I used the rostrum, I used the microphone, I used the podium to make war. And I made war that day. A speech that was heard all around the world. The president came out against me. The vice president, Gore, by name, came out against me. The United States Senate voted 97-0 to condemn me. The first time in history, the United States Congress, full Congress in the House of Representatives, it was put on the floor, House Resolution 343, by an Uncle Tom Negro from Georgia named John Lewis, an old no-good so-called Jew from California named Tom Lantos, another cracker from Georgia named Newt Gingrich, another cracker from Massachusetts with his underwear dripping, soaking wet, his shoes with water and a puddle of water at his feet, dripping with the water of Chappaquiddick, and a white woman still in the trunk of his car in the parking lot. All of them organized and passed House Resolution 343. Sister Maxine Waters didn't vote against me that day. I saw a few months after that and hugged her. She said, no, you know I wasn't going to vote against you. But I wasn't sure, but she didn't. She stood strong. They passed House Resolution 343. The ADL took out a full-page ad in the Sunday New York Times. Roger Wilkins came out against me. All of them came out against me. Even one of them that's very popular, he called the white folks. They didn't have to call him. He called them. He's normally the one that leads the buck dancing. I won't even call his name here tonight. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. And not only that, but the Kwesi Mfume of the Congressional Black Caucus, came out against me. At that time, Ben Chavis of the NAACP came out against me. Then every newspaper started taking out full-page ads with every kind of organization that would join against me and fill up the page with organizational representation straight across the board. Governors came out against me, mayors, state assemblies, city council. I was honored, absolutely honored. There are Negroes who would have jumped off of the tallest, jumped off of a one-story building to commit suicide. I was absolutely happy, honored. It's the greatest compliment that could be paid a revolutionary. The greatest compliment that could be paid a freedom fighter is to be condemned by the enemy, condemned by the oppressor. But to be praised by the enemy is the worst history and legacy that you could leave. That the enemy always has you on the front page of his magazine, gives you television shows and gives you radio shows and gives you full access Those of us who have any radio or TV, stronger you are, you're always battling to stay on there. But those that the enemy has, who represent him, he makes it easy for them to speak his party line. For all of them came out against me, meant nothing to me. But then my teacher himself held his press conference at the Vista Hotel, Minister Louis Farrakhan, in Washington, D.C. The very next day, after the Senate had voted 97-0 against me, I'm rejoicing, happy, ready to go and crush some more crackers at the next city and the next stop. And the next day, I'm in Florida, and I hear all over the news. It was on every station, everywhere, blaring and blasting, that a press conference had been in session that day, and that my leader, who had told me that he was going to come out against me, but I was not expecting it to be in mass media. I only expected it to be in the Final Call newspaper. I'm sharing all of this with you, and I'll come up to the assassination attempt. I'll touch on the Million Man March, a little bit on OJ, and then we'll have a few questions and be on our way. I listened to the report. He said he found my words vile in manner, malicious, repugnant, mean-spirited, spoken in mockery of people and individuals, and not in the spirit of Islam. Now those are words I will remember forever. Those are stronger words almost than somebody whispering in your ear, I love you. I mean, those words I will remember. Vile in manner, malicious, repugnant, mean-spirited, spoken in mockery of people and individuals, and not in the spirit of Islam. It was a mean blow to me. I said, how could this be happening? I couldn't believe it happened. Then the centerfold of the Final Call newspaper came out with a transcript of the full press conference. I was hurt. I can't lie to you. I was hurt. And then Muslims started backing away from me. Friends started turning their backs on me. Some would see me and wave across the street. Some would see me and just honk their horns and keep on going. Those who had been very close backed up from me. Nightline, oh, hook-nosed Ted Koppel. He came on. I loved it. I had been at the University of Florida or somewhere. Overflow auditorium. Then they filled up 3 or 4 closed-circuit auditoriums. Wall-to-wall crackers. A handful of black folks. But crackers filled up all the auditorium. And I kicked behind that night. I didn't even know it was going to be on Nightline. Top of Nightline. Nightline, open up. The nerve of you to call me a hater. The nerve of you, and I'm in their face, the nerve of you to call me a racist, to call me a bigot. You no good bastard, you. Top of Nightline. And loved every second of it. And various other programs. Every talk show you can imagine. Rolanda. What our little country said. Well, you met him at the French fries, huh? Rolanda called me a racist. The bald-headed boy married to the ugly white girl. A disgrace to the bald heads. What's his name? Montel. I won't tell if you don't. Montel called me a racist. I don't think Oprah touched it. She stays clear of all that stuff. She ain't touched nothing. All of them, Donahue called me on. He just knew he was their point man. They were to get a psychological profile on this Khalid Abdul Muhammad. So they did a one-on-one with Donahue. He only knew me from sound bites. So he said, this is just some wild-eyed, radical, bald-headed nigga, you know, and with all of this mad stuff. And got me on him round by round. I wore his behind out, absolutely wore him out. That day, the God and the ancestors were with me. I couldn't do nothing wrong. I couldn't say anything wrong. I don't care what. He started off with all kinds. He wanted to start with the hardest question. He figured it would shut me down if he started off with Colin Ferguson. That I had praised Colin Ferguson at the Black Holocaust Conference in Washington, D.C., set up by the lawyer warrior there, Dr. Malik Zulu Shabazz, who now has his Juris Doctorate degree and has graduated from the Howard Law School, and Dr. Tony Martin and Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Brother Steve Coakley and others. We were there that night. And he started off because I had praised Brother Colin Ferguson, who killed the white folks on the Long Island train in New York. And he thought that would just stump me. But there's no way I could answer that intelligently. That would just make me look like a total fool, or I would be so radical until I would lose the masses of black people even, who were looking. And so I don't know where the answer came from. It came from God and the ancestors. So he said, you praise, I don't remember really the question, but in words he was saying, you praise Colin Ferguson? And I said that I praise Colin Ferguson just as much as the masses of white Americans praise General Eisenhower, General Schwarzkopf, General Westmoreland, General Patton. I said America awards her killers. She gives them ribbons and stripes and bars and medals. And I said I love Colin just as much as you love, in words, your killer. Well, he got out of that one. And he went on and on with various questions. So during that same month, that's around the first part of, toward the middle of May. And, oh, bow ties of May. But shortly thereafter, is it a loop? Oh, okay. One of the bow tie men told me he did like that. He knew, he must have seen something. Here comes Minister Tony Muhammad and Captain Hugh Muhammad, the regional captain and the regional minister of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Look at this queen coming in. So that was early in May. And then on May 29th, what was that, the Memorial Day weekend, at the University of Riverside, University of California at Riverside, the assassination attempt took place. I remember so well that we had left the auditorium and we were coming out to take questions because they had told the students that if they remained in the auditorium, they would have to charge them extra. And so we went out of the front door to answer questions on the steps of the auditorium. I'd only been out 5-10 minutes or so. And one of the Chicano brothers asked a question about black and brown unity and black and red unity. And I remember as I started to answer his question, initially a disturbance started around me. You remember in the Audubon Auditorium, a disturbance started where Malcolm was concerned. Somebody shouted, "Get out of my pocket. Nigger, get out of my pocket." And so this was a diversionary tactic. And as everyone focused on this situation, death ran down the aisles in the form of handguns and shotguns and opened fire on Malcolm while everyone was dealing with the so-called pickpocket as Malcolm stepped from behind the rostrum to say, brothers, don't do that, or whatever Malcolm said to them. So a dispute broke out around me. None of the Muslims from mosque number 27 were there, with the exception of one or two. None of the officers, none of the major FOI. But the brothers who were there were mostly new brothers, or brothers from the outlying areas, inexperienced brothers. But Brother Stanley 2X, who was a minister in that area, had organized some Bloods and Crips who didn't wear they didn't wear blue, they didn't wear red, they wore black. And they went all black. And so it was said that they couldn't stand post with me. And immediately I stepped in and I said, no, we're going to work together here. We're going to stand post together. So in other words, I was telling the brothers of the FOI, let the brothers from the Crips and the Bloods, we're all one. They wanted to be with me. They came to secure me. I said, let them stand. And it wasn't but a short while after I said that gunshots rang out. And I remember almost not believing it. I couldn't believe it for some reason. And then I thought about all of the protesters that had been out in front when I first arrived. There were white folks everywhere. So-called white Jews everywhere. Police everywhere. I remember, to take you back, that when the caravan rolled onto the campus of the University of California at Riverside, I remember the caravan was supposed to take me around the building to the back door. But for some reason, and we know that reason, for some reason, my captain, Ali Rashid, his spirit rose up in me. My training under him, my former tour of duty as Supreme Captain of the Fruit of Islam rose up in me. And I didn't see any of the seasoned soldiers out front, so I felt that I had to get out front and handle the white protesters and the white so-called Jews out front. So the brothers say, you can't get out. I said, I have to get out. They said, you can't get out. I said, stop the car. I didn't realize what I was doing, but I was saving my life at that very second and didn't realize it. I'm going into what I thought was danger, but I was avoiding real danger. I was going to what I considered the eye of the storm, but I was avoiding death. And so I remember they were slow to stop the car, and I opened the door and jumped out. I had to run a little bit to keep my balance. And I slammed the door to let the caravan go on. And I went on with my Supreme Captain spirit and Captain Rashid's spirit and jumped in the middle. And there was Irv Rubin talking crazy and some other crackers running around insane. And and I jumped in the middle of it. So I took the Jews. They wanted to come in. I told them they were welcome to come in. But every one of you will have to buy a ticket. So they all bought a ticket. Then I went in the check room and checked them myself, one by one. And took a knife. It was most humiliating for Irv Rubin. Most humiliating for him to be checked and to be checked by me. Took 2 knives from them. Turned the knives over to security. While we're inside, later we find reports we didn't know that James Best, the one assailant who was caught, others got away. That's our belief. He was caught. The crowd had beat him so badly they thought he was dead. James Best, on the other side of the fence, on the other side of the thick shrubbery, had his car parked, 3 9mm, a 30-06 rifle with a scope. And he had locked his guns and everything and the keys in the car. And one of the students called the police, and the police let him in to get his guns. Had what I think it was a Seattle, Washington license plate. Was it Seattle? And Brother Ray said, they didn't call AAA. Of course, I'm not knowing any of this. I was scheduled to go around the building in the car caravan, get out of the building at the backstage door, which was lined up directly with a knoll, grassy knoll, you know what I'm saying? All right? and a grassy knoll. The fence had been cut out with wire cutter. The bushes had been freshly cut, and a hole was there so that the would-be assassin or assassins could make the hit, step through the hole in the fence, on the other side of the thick, lush greenery, take their time, and walk to the cars on the street in front of student housing, and no one would know they were connected with what had happened on the other side of the fence because you couldn't see through the fence. So I was supposed to go in that backstage door, and death was waiting for me at the backstage door. When it was over, I was supposed to go out of the backstage door. Brother Larry is here. He was one of the men who was with me. And we were to go out of that backstage door just as I was to come in. But when I heard that the students had to leave and give up the auditorium, I received a note from someone. And the note apparently was to get me outside, because the note said that we had to give up the auditorium. Something similar had happened at Marla Gibbs Vision Complex the night before. The night before, it was jam-packed, overflow crowd out into the streets. And while I'm speaking, I get a note stating that gas is escaping in the parking lot. Ali Rashid, my captain spirit, rises up in me. How to handle situations. I can't, some are running out of the auditorium, panicking. So immediately I take charge. And I say, well, you were there, Brother Ashra Quazy. I say, well, since the gas is escaping out in the parking lot, and just a little bit of it seeping in here, we should stay in here where there's no gas seeping. Everybody have a seat. So I kept speaking. But they tell me that James Betts and 2 other men were outside that night. Many people saw them, and they never came inside of the auditorium. The object was to get me the night before, to come out with the crowd into the blackness of night, under the pretext of some gas escaping, and the hit would have been made that night. So when I got the note the next day, similar to the note the night before, watch these notes. Yo, these notes can get you killed. Hey, I ain't here. Don't pass me no note. Look, this is truly a good life, and I intend to hold on to it. As long as I don't have to turn the lights off, it's fine. I didn't come in a Ford. All right. I was supposed to go out of that backstage door. But when I got the note, instead of going out the backstage door and just terminating the meeting, I said, well, let's answer questions out front. I went back out the same front door. They're still waiting to kill me at the back door. But for some reason that day, by God's permission and the ancestors, I didn't go in the backstage door, and I didn't come out of the backstage door. The night before, I ignored the so-called gas threat and stayed inside the building. I remember well, and I'm not a spooky fellow, but a very spiritual man. I remember well when I hit the pavement that day, jumping out of the car to walk, to handle that crowd. For some reason, and this is the truth, I remember when I stepped, the pavement looked so bright. It just looked beautiful for some reason. The sun just seemed to be glowing radiantly. I remember my stride and my walk as I'm studying everything, as I'm approaching all these white folks and banners and placards and signs and chants. And I just felt good as I was walking, not knowing that I'm walking the walk of life instead of the walk of death. But that was a feeling that I will never forget. Now, one bullet across here, one hits me here. Those same Crips and Bloods took bullets in the chest, in the shoulder, in the legs. They took the initial shots for me. No doubt, if I would have been hit by the 9mm shots that they took, I would probably be dead today. They shot into the crowd. No children were hit. My 9-year-old son, bullets flying all over his head. When the brothers slammed me to the ground and covered me, my first thought as I'm hitting the ground is little Farrakhan, my son. When I saw them snatch him out of the way, I'm seeing him and I'm knowing that he's probably going into shock. He's screaming to the top of his little voice, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," in one breath. In the other breath he said, "They're shooting my daddy, kill them bastards, kill those bastards." And I hit the ground, I see him out of the way, no more gunshots. Brother Stanley 2X is not here tonight, but I will always talk about Brother Stanley 2X, Brother Larry 2X, I think. Is it 2X? What's your X? 4X. Brother Larry 4X, and others that were with me that day. Brother Stanley 2X, when we studied the tapes, looked like he was flying through the air like Superman. Never looked like he hesitated. Never looked like he feared for his life. He moved like a real security man. He moved like a real bodyguard with training and love for the protectee who was being shot down. And you saw him flying through the air. You could see them fighting with James Best. Best, we don't see this, gets the gun to Brother Stanley 2X's stomach. They fight on the ground for the gun. Brother Stanley is determined to get the gun. He takes the gun from James Best, puts the gun to his head, because that's our law. Justice had to be carried out then. The only court that James Best was supposed to get, he was supposed to get it right then. He was supposed to be killed right on the spot. That's justice. The gun was put to his head, but someone with a white shirt and a bow tie on leaned down and grabbed the barrel of the gun and lifted it up from James Best's head, and Stanley 2X looks up into the face of this person and knows who this person is, and I have to question them, and I haven't done it this time, but I intend to at some point in the near future. This person saves James Best's life. By this time, the crowd hits. Everybody's trying to stomp him and kick him. They kick the gun out of Brother Stanley's hand. Brother Stanley's scrambling for the gun. The clip is separated from the gun. Then he starts beating Best in the head with the gun, trying to beat him to death. And the crowd is stomping him and kicking him until he's unconscious. And they think he's dead. Rashid's spirit up in me again. I'm shot. Blood is everywhere. And some people are panicking and running and screaming, but he trained us well. I take charge of the situation and start barking orders to everybody. You know, don't panic, so-and-so, so-and-so. And the brothers had me. And somebody said, well, let's lay him on the table over there. I say, hell no. Don't lay me on no damn table. I say, these crackers will leave me there and let me bleed to death before these crackers get here. Take me to the damn hospital. And so they started moving with me to the hospital. We don't have no car because we got to get through the auditorium to the back door, get to a car. Brother Larry, what kind of car was that, brother? A Lexus? A beautiful, brand new Lexus. Brother didn't hesitate. Blood everywhere. It put me in the car. We jumped on in with blood all of. Did you get all that blood out of that Lexus, brother? Got it all out the Lexus. That's a blessing. That's a blessing. But now we're on our way to the hospital. I'm barking orders. Who knows where the hospital is? Hell, none of us knew where the hospital was. We ran through lights. We checked it. I said, check the innocent. Rashid, you know, he was just that kind of trainer of men. I'm navigating all the way. Then we get to the station. The man is in the car with me. He's got the gun that was taken. So when we get there, police come from everywhere. Clack, 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 clack. They want the gun. The brother is not going to give up the gun. He's ready to fight them the way he did James Best. Hey, I'm bleeding, hurting. I got to get out on one leg, step between him and the police, back them up. You know, tell them, put the guns down, back up, and tell the brother, give me the gun, give the cracker the gun. And so we give the devil the gun, and they take me on in. All of this, and then through the hospital ordeal, Many of you wrote me. Many of you called me. Many sent up prayers for me and positive vibrations for me. But my trial was just beginning, because then when I came out of the hospital, I didn't know if I could walk again. I had to go to therapy. Made me sick for the first day or two, and I stopped that stuff. I had to go in with Heather and Nancy and Cindy, and they were just too sickening. Come on, come on, you can walk, come on, you can do it. Damn, I can't do this every day. And a sister whose name I will not call, blue-black sister that many of you know from the screens and movies and everywhere, came to the city, and Supreme Captain approved that she could work on me with my therapy. I couldn't be getting in no swimming pool with Nancy and Cindy, talking about no therapy and stuff. I mean, I would have had a relapse. So Sis was with me. Then looked like everybody around me was packing. Everywhere Sis went, she had a big old pistol. And she's checking everybody. Who is he? Who is he? I got your back. Who is so-and-so? But my trial was just beginning. I got pretty much well. Then the security of the Nation of Islam was pulled from around me. Wherever I went, no security, no FOI. I'm out there all by myself until the Panther Party came up. I rolled into one city and the Panthers came from everywhere. Riot, pump, shotguns, black berets and everything. And I can't lie to you, I was glad to see it. I was glad to see the Panther Party. Some people say you got all them brothers around you with them guns, you don't believe in God. I say, I believe in God. I believe he'll bless them to shoot straight if somebody come in here after me. And the Panthers surrounded me. 5% Nation, Zulu Nation, Black Hebrews, many nationalists, Pan-Africanists, they came up around me. Some cities I went into, sisters rolled up around me. Sisters say, we got your back. And I'm still agonizing, because now it seemed like the gulf was growing wider and wider. I was trying to reach my teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I called him for a year and a half, and I couldn't get a meeting. I'm wondering what's going on. We met only briefly for about 20 minutes right after the assassination attempt a month or so later or sometime down the line or two. But for a year and a half, I'd catch him on the phone once or twice, and we'd speak for a few minutes, and we'd set an appointment. But every time, something would happen, and the appointment would never go through. I said, what's going on? But I had Malcolm as my example. And so I wanted to rewrite the history. I didn't want to relive Malcolm's history. I don't mean the assassination part. I didn't want to create a split. I didn't want to create division. I wanted to show character. I wanted to show that I wasn't a sniveling, whining little punk. That I wasn't going to go out saying, well, you know, Minister Farrakhan. Malcolm hurt me when I studied the tapes where he would sit down with the white man and say, Elijah Muhammad and the black Muslim movement is a criminal organization. Elijah Muhammad is the father of so-and-so and so-and-so number of illegitimate children by his young secretaries. Elijah, just sitting down with Mike Wallace and this cracker and that one. I said, I can't do that. I said, I will never do that. And so everywhere I spoke, the enemy was mad with me, because everywhere I spoke, I gave credit, even though I was hurting, even though I didn't understand what the hell was going on, even though I didn't understand why I couldn't get a meeting with my leader. I said, I will not speak as little as a word, nor as much as a sentence against him. I will show him, and I'll show the devil, the white man, that he has that kind of power, and that there is a black leader who has that kind of control. And so I wanted to show them that Farrakhan could sit me down, that Farrakhan could condemn me before the whole world, but that I would remain loyal and faithful to him unless something showed me otherwise. And so I held on, as the old folks say, until my change came. I held on through the night. And finally, some of you have read recently that I was reinstated, but even that is not full reinstatement. Even that is something that I don't understand how it's being handled. Some people say this is a trial, this is a test. I say, hell, if you don't know who the hell I am by now, I don't know when you will know. Some of the Muslims looking at me funny, saying, you know, Khalid, like they said about Minister Farrakhan, like they said about Minister Malcolm X. Khalid he's a hypocrite. Khalid is turned. You're the goddamn hypocrite. If you don't know me by now, you will never know me. If you don't know that I'm not going to turn on him by now, you will never know me. So some were hoping that I would get killed. Others were hoping I'd fall by the wayside. And as the old folks say, when you're in trouble, you get to see everybody. You get to see who your friends really are. You get to see. Now I'm so-called reinstated. And Negroes are coming to me. How you do? Salaikum, bacon and eggs and ham, salam. I'm so glad to see you, brother. And I'm saying under my breath, nigga, please. When I was shot down like a dog, you left me like a dog. When I didn't have a penny in my pocket, God raised up people in the streets to come up and help me. But for some reason, he didn't make me vindictive. You know, and I can be mean. But for some reason, he raised me so high during the process until I don't even feel it. So I don't hold it against those who I know. I don't mean some were just backed away from me, but others straight up dissed me. Most didn't diss me. They were just a little confused here or there or whatever. But I say that even if you were confused, if I had lived in the time of Malcolm and had been in the Nation of Islam, I would have gone after Malcolm. After all Malcolm had done, I would have gone to find Malcolm and put my arm around Malcolm and walked with Malcolm and talked with Malcolm and tried to reason with Malcolm. But there were chicken-hearted, jealous-hearted niggers and agent provocateurs inside of the movement that Gay Edgar Hoover had planted among the righteous followers of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, that kept dissension and controversy going in the ranks, and they exist to this very day in not only the Nation of Islam, but every organization we got, and some of the niggas are in here right tonight, sitting in the good life, right in here tonight. Damn it, you clapping harder than anybody else. You want a stronger cup of herb tea than anybody in the house. You want a wheatgrass sandwich. Wheat germ drink or something. Trying to show that you really down with the good life, nigga. You ain't down with the good life. Right on. As soon as the meeting is over, you go right on back to the white folks with everything that happened in here. Every one of our organizations infiltrated by the enemy today. Yes, that's no reason for us to look at each other all the time and now look at each other and think everybody is the police. No reason for us to do that, but believe that they are present. Believe that. So, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was dogged when Wallace Muhammad set him down in New York after he had built an empire movement in New York, had drawn close to 100,000 to Randall's Island in New York. They had to bring him in a helicopter to land down in the midst of the people. But Wallace Muhammad busted him. He said when he left Mosque number 7, he was hurt. He said when he got in his car in front of the mosque, he said all the people he had taught, all the things he had done, he said it was only a one or two or few that walked up to the car to say, thank you, Brother Minister Farrakhan, for what you've done. He said nobody, for the most part, came to thank him. Put him in a mosque, in a storefront, on the second floor of a storefront when he had built an empire, as I said, in New York, calling him a hypocrite, ready to kill him. And the very man that they called a hypocrite is the very man that God blessed to be the cornerstone of the rebuilding of the work of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. But they wanted to kill him. I remember as a young lieutenant, I used to be around these chicken-hearted niggers who were laborers and officers in the Nation of Islam. And I used to hear them when Minister Farrakhan would come to this city in Los Angeles. When he would come to various cities, I would hear them whispering and talking about it. Oh, man, we don't have to do what Farrakhan say. He was the only one who could draw a crowd. He was the only one who could come in and teach them what to do. They said, we ain't got to do that, man. One fool came up to me and said, Farrakhan. I'm young, new. He said, do you know what Farrakhan means? I said, no, sir. He said, Farrakhan means far away from the truth. And I was still spunky in them days and a fighter in those days. I said, you better get far away from me with that foolishness. Some stupid stuff. But they hated him like they hated Malcolm. And now I'm living the same thing all over again. I ain't choose it. Malcolm was the first national spokesman. Minister Farrakhan became the second and chose me to be the third in that line. I didn't choose myself. And I certainly wouldn't have fixed a calendar so that my speech at Keene College would correspond and the suspension and all of that would correspond 30 years exact later. All of this happening for whatever reason that is happening. Much of it yet to be unfolded and revealed. Broken hearted, but not broken spirited. My spirit has remained strong through all of this. And who's that used to sing, I can see clearly now? The rain is gone. I can see clearly now. Much clearer than I could see. Who was it? The Pips? Who was it? No. Johnny Nash? Who? Jimmy who? Jimmy Cliff? Brothers say a lot of them did it. I'm beginning to believe it. Look at it. I covered these things to share with the community and to share with you. It was important to me. We went through the projects today. We said, I want to go not to the big, close to 1,000 at the mosque yesterday. We said, no, well, this time we want to go in the community like I used to roll. So we went through touch with the Bloods today. We reach out to the Bloods and to the Crips, and that's the kind of new minister that has come to the city, and Minister Tony Muhammad. That's his spirit. I saw him grow in the Nation of Islam. Saw him grow when I was the minister in Atlanta over the southern region. Trained him as a first lieutenant there, first officer, then as captain, then as student minister, then as assistant minister. Then saw him as he rose to the ministry. And then when I was arrested to be sent off to prison, he was with me that day when close to 100 FBI agents in Georgia Bureau of Investigation fell out of the sky, came out of trees, crawled out from under cars, out of the bushes. They came from every damn where. They were everywhere. And we had this briefcase with all the evidence against me. He'll remember it well. All the evidence was in there, the contracts and everything was in the briefcase. And I got the briefcase in my hand. I put the briefcase down and I get ready to stretch before we go in to close on this big tract of land. And all I could hear was the staccato of guns cocking in the atmosphere. And an FBI agent named Jeffrey Holmes about to break his damn neck. They were scared to death. One but three of us. They were scared to death, and literally 100 of them. And he was falling and stumbling about the start. Get your hands in the air! Get your hands in the air! We looked at this fool, and he stumbled on up us with the gun. I pushed the gun out of my damn face. Now I'm worried about this briefcase. And so they say, that's him. And so they started to cuff him, Minister Tony Muhammad. They started to cuff the lieutenant who was with her, Sylvester. And I said, no, they don't have anything to do with this. It's me who you want. And so that's Rashid again. I took charge. So the devil said, well, that is right, because he was getting ready to cuff him. He said, it is him. We don't need to take them. So they put the cuffs on me, and my briefcase is there. I'm saying, oh, this briefcase. And so they said, is this your briefcase? Don't ask me no stupid question like that. Is that my briefcase? Immediately I said, no, that's not my briefcase. God gave me the courage and the power. I said, no, that's not my briefcase. I said, that's that man's briefcase. Get that man's damn briefcase. The devil looked at me. He said, that's not your, get a man's damn briefcase. And he'll tell you I'm not lying. The devil said, okay. The devil gave him the briefcase. I was so glad to see Brother Tony leave with that briefcase. Well, I got 3 years, I might have got 10. Wasn't no dope in it, nothing crazy. This was all some stupid paper stuff that they were moving me on. But really, they railroaded me. They played every day one of my toughest tapes from the Black Research and Topographical Center, where we talked about blowing up power stations and blowing up the defense highways and killing cops and catching them at Jack in the Box when they're off guard and leaving their head in the box. And they played this on the news. They played it in the courtroom. They denied me bail, bond, because they say that the FBI's lives were in jeopardy because he would kill, when Furman said the same thing about the Muslims, that they harassed the Muslims and what feelings they had for the Muslims because the Muslims were cop killers. Well, I like that. I'd rather be a cop killer than to be killed by a cop. You know what I'm saying? That's called self-defense. That's all it's called. I'm about to wrap this up so you can touch on this Million Man March and get it out of the way, because I've heard that my dear sister Shahrazad Ali has spoken out strongly against the Million Man March. I've heard that the great Grand Master teacher and historian and venerable scholar Dr. John Henry Clark has spoken out against the Million Man March, and a few others. And so I got to touch on it just a little bit. Is that all right? Okay. But let me wrap this part of it up. So I've watched him grow and come up through the ranks. When I was in prison, he was the only brother that visited me while I was in prison. While I was in prison, he came all the way from Georgia to Florida, because first they had me in Atlanta. You know, they had Mr. Garvey in Atlanta. And from Atlanta, they moved me to Alabama. The FBI picked me up one cold Sunday morning early, rolled me up, chained me and shackled me. I didn't know where they would take me. We drove forever and forever. We drove to Alabama. Took me to a penitentiary in Alabama. I remember when we got there, I saw all this barbed wire and layers and no man's land in between, dogs running in between. I didn't see no movement on the yard nowhere. And then they took me on in, and we get in this place, and the Cubans were there. They had just burned up the penitentiary in Atlanta, and they had Cubans everywhere. And they were loud and shaking the bars and cussing because they didn't feel they were supposed to be there no way. The Cubans would urinate in the commode, and they would put blankets and stuff up to the cell door. And then they would just overflow the toilets in their urination and defecation, and somebody would they'd be up on the upper tier, and the guards would be walking on the lower tier. Somebody would give a command in Spanish, and they would jerk the blankets, and all kind of urination and defecation would hit the guards and stuff. So I'm going in this madhouse, shackled and chained, and can't walk. Nobody is out. So one of the trustees that was in there, I said, when do you get out in here? He said, you don't. And so they lock no more bars down. They got these thick iron doors. You go in, you stick your hands back out, they unchain you and cuff you and tell you to step back from the door. They close the latch. When it's time to eat, they open this latch and slide the food in. And I remember this cell just closed in on me. Damn, this place is terrible. Then they kept me in the hole for a while, for protective custody, they said, because I started organizing. I'm teaching the white man is the devil. I figure if you can't convince black men in the penitentiary that the white man is the devil, you ought to just give it up. Just give it up. You don't need to teach nobody. Man, I got to preaching and teaching in there, and the brothers stood up in the jailhouse. And I had a standing army in there, and they locked my butt down in the hole. I remember I used to pass the hole, and we would always look over toward the hole. I said, damn, it must be hell in there. But I never did think I was going to end up in there. One day, I wasn't just passing. I was in there. Black, dark. It was terrible in there. So I prayed. This is the truth. I prayed for peace of mind. I said, if I can't get out of here now, just give me peace of mind. Just give me the strength to bear this. And I prayed hard, and I prayed, and I prayed, and I willed it, and I willed it. And the next morning I woke up, I felt like I was at the Waldorf Astoria. I ain't lying. I got on my knees, I cleaned the floor, I polished everything, I scrubbed all the stupid graffiti off the walls. I mean, I made my place livable. Made it look like a military barracks. Though I was in the hole, I made my bed every day in a military style, and I declared myself a political prisoner. And that's right. Once I changed my status in my mind, I was all right. But I faced reality now. I'm not one of them spooky guys, you know, that are always talking about how they have these out-of-body experiences, you know, where your mind is on Mars, but your behind is still behind bars. You know? I didn't go there. I didn't go there. I dealt with it straight up. I'm now happy that I passed the test. I stood the test of time. I went through the fiery furnace. I stood the rebuke of my brothers and sisters, scorn. They're turning their backs on me. I stood the questioning of my leader to question why he was doing me the way that he was, but refused to turn on him. I passed all of the tests, but I only passed because Malcolm had taken the test before me. Minister Farrakhan had taken the test before me, but really Malcolm's test, the answers that he left, helped me to walk better. And so I believe that Farrakhan and Khalid have put a positive period behind the history of Elijah and Malcolm, and that's a chapter that we do not have to repeat by God's grace. Now, very quickly on the Million Man March, and I will wrap it up. I don't think I need to unless you raise a question on OJ and this whole Furman thing. I don't think I really need to put it in my lecture, but if you raise a question on it, I will answer it after I finish this segment on the Million Man March. Many of you ask, why a Million Man March? My answer is a question to you, why not a Million Man March? You say, what is the purpose of a Million Man March? I say, anytime a million black men can come together in unity, it is the most important and overwhelming and necessary event and happening and occurrence. Why Washington, D.C.? Sister Shahrazad Ali, and I love Sister Shahrazad Ali. I'm not just saying that. Some of you don't like her, but I like her. I love her. I love her because she's strong. She don't take no nonsense, no foolishness. She crushes these crackers on these programs the way I crush them. She'd talk about them in a minute. White women be on there arguing with her about her book and black on men and stuff. She said, well, you ain't got no man. That's why that's your problem. She's just hard on them, and I love her for that. She said that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that when he looked at the March on Washington in '63, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that he didn't want his followers going to Washington, D.C. with their hats in their hands, begging the white man. Well, October 16th is not an occasion when we will go to Washington, D.C. with our hats in our hands to beg the white man. October 16th is a day to make America know her sins, to make America know her wickedness from the mouth of her once slave. October the 16th is a day of atonement, but not atonement to white men, not an atonement to Gingrich, not an atonement to Clinton or to Dole nor any of them, but it is a day of atonement to our God, the God of the black woman, the God of the black man, the God of our forefathers and foremothers, the God of our ancestors. For we have turned our backs on their laws and their statutes and their commandments, and we have turned our back on our culture. We have turned our back on that legacy that our ancestors have left us, and so we find ourselves in the condition that we are in today because the ancestors are not with us to the degree that they should be. And so the scripture says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, God goes on to say, then I will hear their prayer from heaven and I will heal their nation. If my people, my is the possessive pronoun. God is talking about a particular people. He didn't say of all the people. He said if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then I will hear their prayer. Well, what is your prayer, black man? What is your prayer, black woman? Your prayer should be freedom and independence. Your prayer should not be with your hat in your hand, bootlicking and buck dancing and being bamboozled by the white man and begging the white man for food stamps and welfare and entitlements and procurements. No, black man and woman, your prayer should not be that the white man will give you some more set-asides. So now you got a Negro sitting on the Supreme Court, a Negro jurist sitting there doing the bidding of the enemy, doing the bidding of the white man, but in another sense doing the bidding of God. A Negro married to an ugly, tall, dinosaur-looking white woman. Negro has to go home, look like he going to Jurassic Park when he go home to this ugly white woman. I saw him when they were having the hearings with him and that sister, what's her name? Anita Hill. Yeah, that's another thing now. That thing with that Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas. Don't get me wrong now. I believe that Clarence Thomas said some of the things that she say he said and did some of the things she say he did. But I believe there were some things that both of them said and both of them did that neither one of them didn't talk about. Now that I believe. You don't tell me that no woman is not aware when a man is making passes at her. Man can be as hot in his pants as he want to be. I'm a man. And I know that if a woman does not want to entertain that, especially the black woman, I don't know nothing about white women. That's the truth. And that's rare nowadays. I don't just believe the white man is the devil. I believe the white woman is the devil too. And she's the mother of the devil. That's what I said at King College. When I went on down the line, I said, kill the men, kill the women, kill the children, kill the blind, kill the cripple, kill the crazy. They kill them all. Kill the faggot, kill the lesbian, kill them all. I went down the list. Why kill the babies? I say, because the babies going to grow up to give our babies hell one day. Why kill the women? I say, kill the women because they are the military manufacturing center. And every 9 months they lay down on their back and reinforcements roll out from between their legs, shut down the military manufacturing center. It's a military matter. Nothing personal. Just a military matter. Say, kill the old ones. Say, why kill the old ones? I say, how in the hell you think they got old? They got old oppressing black people. I say, if they're in a damn wheelchair, push them off a goddamn cliff. I say, kill the faggot, kill the lesbian, kill the blind, kill the cripple, kill the crazy. Say, goddamn it, after you kill them all, then go to the goddamn graveyard and dig them up and kill them a goddamn again because they didn't die hard enough. Them crackers read that speech in Congress. They said, my God, what a nigga. What a nigga. So they started calling me the truth terrorist. Some smart writer in New York called me a pyrotech. I didn't know what the hell that was. What the hell is a pyrotech? I looked up pyrotech and said, one who makes fireworks and with words. So another one called me, as I said, a truth terrorist, a knowledge gangster in one of the rap circles, a black history hitman, a lie killer urban guerrilla, a revolutionary roughneck. So all of this hitting. Let's move back to this Million Man March. And away from Clarence Thomas and that whole set. But our prayer should not be for these handouts. We need freedom and independence. We need a nation of our own. Mr. Garvey came here and Mr. Garvey said, I looked out and I looked at the condition of my people. And he said, I asked the question, where is the black man's flag? Where are his factories? Where are his women and men who are diplomats and his men and women of great affairs? He said, I looked and I saw none. And so I decided that I had to help build it. We can't beg the white man. It's atonement to our God and our ancestors. It's atonement, black woman, to you by the black man. Atonement to you for all of the years that we have not been the men by you that we should have been. Every now and then we find a black man who is still sane enough in crazy white America, who will stick by his black woman and has his faculties that are intact and focused enough that he'll be a real man by the black woman. That's hard to find. Hard to find. Dr. Afari Hutchinson is here, and he can no doubt give us the statistics on this of the many black households that are headed by the black woman. I'm sure it's over 50%, probably over 60%. Some say it's over 70% of black households where you, black woman, are the mother, the father, and the breadwinner. And some of you are silly enough to run around with this white feminist foolishness. Talking about a woman's liberation movement. You don't need no damn woman's liberation movement, black woman. Damn, the poor black man can't even tell the dog what to do. And the dog will do what he says. Let alone you. Don't nobody tell you what to do. Nobody needs to be liberated from foolishness if you think that way. That's white women with that foolishness. They have to be liberated from the awesome power of the white man. It's true. And where there's a power relationship and a power dynamic that exists, then the white man being the dominating factor in this equation, his number one enemy, his public enemy number one, is not the white woman, is not the black woman, but the black man. Read the book. The Assassination of Black Male Images. The author, please hold your hand up so they'll know who you are. The author sitting right here in our midst. Much of that and some of that and hints of that and other focus points are there. But let's move quickly with this. Some of you running around. I want to be at the moment. But you don't think black women should be, you think we inferior? That's not the point, black woman. There's nothing to do with it. You head the household. You're the backbone of the church. You're the backbone of the civil rights organization. Many times you're working and you're the breadwinner and the black man is pushed into a corner. Cracker sometimes, since the black man has not taken the initiative and the self-determination to stand up and do something for self and provide for self. Many times he cannot get a job and you have a job. You carried us during slavery, did things beneath your dignity just to keep us from being killed or sold. You, black woman, in those civil rights marches, you were on the front lines with the men. Some of our mothers were out there. Some of our grandmothers and grand aunts were out there. Vicious, four-legged dogs, sicked on us by cold-blooded, vicious, two-legged white dogs. Bit up into the breast of black women. Bit black women. We saw crackers stalk black women, drag black women, kick them in the streets. We remember Montgomery, Alabama. We remember Selma, Alabama. We remember Birmingham. We remember our babies being killed in the church, bombed in the church, our baby girls, when the Sunday school lesson that day was the love that forgives. We know this cracker. Senator Bill Bowe, Eastland, George Wallace, Bull Connor, all of these crackers. We remember the Edmund Pettus Bridge, the Max Parker, the Scottsboro boys, Emmett Till. We remember them. We know how vicious this cracker is. We have to stand up, black woman. You stood up for us too long. We have to stand up. You have to back us up on October 16th. It's a day when we should fast and pray, and every black woman and the children at home, not so much the children fasting, but praying. But the adults, the black women, fast from sun up to sundown. No shopping that day, October 16th. We don't buy anything from the corner store, from the supermarket, from the shopping mall, from the shopping plaza. No sporting play that day. No football, black man. No basketball practice preparing for the basketball season. We don't do nothing for the white man that day. It's what Douglas Turner Ward called a day of absence. A day of absence by Douglas Turner Ward. It's a high holy day. If the so-called Jews can have their Yom Kippur, and they don't have to worry about whether they're going to have a job when they get back after Yom Kippur, then why can't the black man and woman have a high holy day of atonement among ourselves? That's the kind of day October 16th is. Ain't no room in there for going with your hat in your hand. Poor Dr. Clark. He said it was a waste of gasoline in a car and a waste of good leather on shoes, he said. Poor Dr. Clark. But he has a right to criticize it. We don't have to have 100% agreement. If Sister Shahrazad Ali is not in agreement with the Million Man March, we don't have to stop loving her. Because Dr. Clark is not in favor, we don't have to stop loving Dr. Clark. That's a lot to ask. These are two of our greats. So they're not in agreement. That won't stop the Million Man March. In fact, if Washington, D.C. turns out, Baltimore, Maryland, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that strip of Norfolk, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, and the Hampton Roads area, if New Jersey turns out, if New York turns out, you got over 1 million right there on the East Coast, on the eastern seaboard. That ain't got nothing to do with the South. Nothing to do with out here on the West Coast. Nothing to do with the brothers coming up out of the Caribbean. Those crossing the border, coming in from Canada. Some coming over from Africa. Ain't got nothing to do with it. You trying to stop the Million Man March is like a dog barking at the moon. Dog barking at the moon ain't gonna stop the moon from shining, fool. You bark all you want to, bow wow. Moon is gonna still shine. Louis Farrakhan's idea from God. It's not his march. He's just the divine medium through which it is revealed and expressed to us. But it is of God. It is of the ancestors using Farrakhan to present to us an idea whose time has come. Nobody can stop it. We can't be out there. I told you when the bullets rang out, I thought of my baby, my son. He was 9 years old then. We can't be out there with our women that day. We believe we will be protected. We believe that God's guidance will be there with us, that we make the right steps and all of the right moves, that he will go out with us and come in with us and put his light above us, beneath us, and all around us. We believe that with all of our being. But we are taught by the great captains of the Nation of Islam and teachers that security is prevention. It's not being so good until you can handle something as it is happening or once it happens, but it's to be so good until you're on top of it and you discourage it from even cropping up into the mind of your enemy. Security is prevention. We can't have our women out there nursing babies, little infants. You nursing babies. We're carrying our little toddlers with us. Baby carriages with us. Baby buggies with us. This is a cold-blooded, vicious beast. Again, we believe we are secure that day and protected by God's divine ordination and providence. But in case something jumps up, I don't want to have to look like I had to look for my little 9-year-old son. Minister Tony Muhammad don't want to have to look for his little son. I have to look for my little son Farrakhan, or he looked for his little son Khalid. We can't do that day. Looking for our woman, our babies, the devil stampedes and the babies hit the ground and people trample on our little infants and babies. We can't do that. If the cracker rises up against us, some of you talking about the danger. God damn it, we live in danger every day. What in the hell are you talking about? This is a punk's approach. Well, they could spray us with some gas. They can spray your butt with some gas at the Good Life. Spray your butt with some gas at the Mike Tyson fight, fool. Spray your butt with some gas when you go and watch Hampton and TSU play. Spray us with some gas. I'm not going. I'm going to stay in. Well, stay in, faggot. Stay home. We wish your woman could come in your place, since you're scared to come. Damn it, don't tell me about no gas. I know he has nerve gas. I know he has ethnic gas. I know he has gas that can target by race. But goddammit, a man has to stand up and be a man under whatever the conditions are. One day in our lives in the hells of North America, we must honor Nat Turner. We must honor Denmark Vesey. We must honor Toussaint and Dessalines and Boukman and all of the revolutionaries who have gone before us. Scary Negro. All these Negroes looking for a reason to stay home. Black woman, you should go on a strike that day. Niggas stay at that, you stay home, you should go on a strike. Black woman, you can make some revolutionary moves that would get this thing going. You know how? Just say no. Don't have to fuss and fight. Just say no. Yeah, Sajawa had to do it. The warrior queen in West Africa among the Ashanti nation. The Asantahene Prempeh. The Asantahene Prempeh had been captured by the enemy. And the elders were too slow to move, and they appeared to fear the enemy who had captured the Asantahene. And Yasantewa stepped to the elders and stepped in the midst of the men. And she said, our Asantahene has been captured, Prempeh. And you, the men of the Ashanti nation, appear to be too slow, or you appear to fear. Be filled with fear. She said, I will organize. It started out with the women, but she ended up fighting as a leader over the men and the women. She said, and I will organize the women, and we will go and fight the enemy. She said, but when you stay home, in words, with the children and take care of everything. She said, but when we return home victorious, she said, there will be no room for you in our bedroom. The Ashanti nation, the Ashanti men rose up. The Ashanti men rose up ready for battle. And now's the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. Oh, sister, you are a tough revolutionary. You better know your power. You're a tough revolutionary. And that's the way you should be. If a black man is not for freedom and independence, if he's a Tom, if he's a boot-licking, butt-licking, butt-dancing, bamboozled, half-baked, half-fried, porkified, sissified, pasteurized, homogenized nigger for the white man, you shouldn't even allow him in your face. Come to you and ask you for your phone number? Say, nigga, please give you my phone number. I might lie down with you, nigga, and accidentally have a baby that turned out to be a punk like you. Can't lay down with you. Sisters, you got power. Just say no. Just say no. That's power. God bless you, sister. God bless you, sister. Look at it for what it's worth. We have to stand up that day as men. I always jokingly say how the white man comes up, knocking at the door, bill collector. Some black men in the back room trembling. Honey, go to the door and see who that is. And tell him, honey, I ain't at home. And she go to the door, poor black woman, mad, wants you to stand up, black man, crack a knocking. She go to the door with her lip poked out and say, he say he ain't home. He say he ain't home. It's time for us to stand up, black man. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is calling us to stand up. So black preachers, black clergy from every denomination standing up with Farrakhan. You know how divided we are. We're also forming a black independent political party. Not hanging with the Democrats, the Democratic Party, nor the Republican Party. And then when it's all over, you're not even invited to the party. No, we're not doing that. A national black independent political party. You'll have the juice. You'll have the power. 1 million black men in D.C. with millions of black women and some other black men and others who are backing them, who are not in Washington, D.C. that day. This is a day of power. This is a day of honor. This is a day of glory. This is a day of the rising up of the black nation in the hells of North America. That's what kind of day this is. How could you be against it? What reason could you give? Even if you were against it, you should just keep your damn mouth shut. Don't say a damn thing. Just shut up. Because you sound so damn silly. Fighting against 1 million black men. Well, what they gonna be going there for? But some of the same niggas were at the march, the rally for Brother Mumia Abu Jamal. I was there in Philadelphia. They want to be there because there's white folks there. I mean, I'm not a marcher, but I knew this was bigger than marching, bigger than Brother Mumia, bigger than me. We wanted to free our political prisoner and make a statement for all of our political prisoners, and especially those who are on death row, as we have done for years. If you've read the back page of the Muhammad Speak newspaper and the Final Call newspaper, where the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad makes this bold stand dealing with black political prisoners and those who are on death row. It's right there. Been there for years. But they out there marching. Cindy's out there in Philadelphia. Kathy, Heather,
flaring, fell all over the damn place. I'm looking around, I said, what in the hell am I doing here? Big banners everywhere. The gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender coalition. Say, that's some serious stuff there. Gay, lesbian, bisexual, and as though that's not enough, here comes somebody called transgender. God damn it, they done jumped over into another gender. Damn, let me get back. Don't want to get stuck out there. It turned into a shimp. Like Prince. He said, yo, I ain't Prince, I ain't Princess. He come up with some other foolish stuff. This is mad. So I'm out there with Brother Akbar, International Ambassador for the Nation of Islam, and Reverend Ishaka Musa Barashanga. We all hanging out. We marching, stop the execution, start the revolution, free Brother Mumia now. And we just chatting, and I'm looking, I see this big old banner in front of me. I say, wait a minute. I said, Akbar, we better check this damn banner, man. We walking behind this banner, and it come out on world news and stuff. So I'm looking up there. I want to see if we behind the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender coalition banner. I know how the lie was going to go, that me and Akbar was holding hands, and Reverend Barashango was jealous because me and Akbar were holding hands. I say, hell no, man, let's get from behind this banner. And we don't want to seem like we leading that section of the parade in front of the banner. We got the hell away. But all these Negroes could be in the parade. But you can't come to Washington, D.C. Every time there's some kind of little protest or some march at Lamert Park, you got your little silly butt walking around the bushes at Lamert Park. That's all right. But you can't go to Washington, D.C. Give me a break. What's wrong with it? As the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, if 1 million bees were coming to Washington, D.C., the white man would be disturbed. He'd be in the war room, situation room, studying about 1 million bees coming to Washington. Now you got 1 million black men coming to Washington, D.C. You don't find no value in that? This is why Washington, D.C. That's the staging area. That's the stage for it to take place. That's where the spotlight will shine. That's where the world will take notice that the one slave has taken a stand. What other place in Washington? We're not going to march between the statues of two dead men, Lincoln and Washington. This is not going to be what Malcolm called the farce on Washington. What you don't know, you dumb Muslims, some of the old Muslims, sitting around criticizing Minister Farr. Elijah Muhammad. Elijah Muhammad didn't do no marching. Elijah Muhammad wouldn't be for this march. See, I know the Elijah Muhammad teachers and bean soup science, sitting around Putin and pontificating and eating bean soup. Elijah, what you don't know, fool, is that Minister Farrakhan and Elijah Muhammad watched the 1963 march on the TV together. Elijah Muhammad saying, this march, there's too much joking, too much playing, too much picnicking. You got to be careful with picnic. You got to know where it started. White man used to spread out his tablecloth, red and white checkered tablecloth, watermelon, cantaloupe, potato salad, pig feet, fried chicken, catfish, everything. They'd lay it all out. They called it a picnic because they wanted to pick a nigger, pick a ninny, pick a nigger. Why do you need to pick a nigger? You pick a nigger for the entertainment while they ate their catfish, while they ate their potato salad. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said there'll be no picnicking. He said, one day, brother, talking to Brother Minister, he said, one day, brother, when I call a march, there'll be no playing. There'll be no joking. He said, we won't go to the white man with our hats in our hands. And so the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, his son, sitting there taking instructions and guidance from his spiritual father and leader and teacher and guide. And so now he stands up and calls 1 million of us to Washington, D.C. No, Farrakhan is not changing direction. Farrakhan is directing the change. And that is what we must be aware of and be in tune with the modern, up-to-date commands of God through his servant in our midst. I've covered it, the points that I wanted to cover. And as the preacher would say, I'm finished. Finished now. Finished. 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 And I thank you for being as attentive as you have been. Assalamu alaikum. I'll take a few questions. Oh, Diabo. You know, I can never remember Brother Jamal's name, but I should never forget it. Please be seated for a second, because it's Brother Jamal and Brother Steve Coakley that have done the most extensive research and investigation and have raised the major evidence on my assassination attempt. In fact, it's Brother Jamal who discovers quite a few things that we won't go into so much here tonight. You know, he's on the Discovery Channel. Do we have any questions? We have 1 hand, 2 hands, 3 hands, 4 hands, 5, 6. Okay. Brother Jamal wants us to, at this point, and I'll help you if you don't mind, to do a donation period. A love offering. Is that what you call it? What do you call it, sir?
Love offering.
Love offering.
Yeah, what's love?
All right. Well, some of them will probably say, we love you, brother. And let that be it. Is there anyone in here who will write a good check for $100? Or give $100? Who will write a good check for $100? Who will give $100?
Brothers and sisters, the Good Life has waived the bucket. We normally give a bucket for them for hosting the program. They have waived it. This bucket is for Dr. Khalid. Dr. Khalid comes here free of charge tonight, and you know, because of medical expenses, travel expenses, and others, the brother needs our support. What we're going to do is ask all of you to give as much as you can. Like the brother said, this is love night, and I want y'all to reach down and show us that you love our brother. The brother has been on the front line for us for many years. Matter of fact, we were having a case study from the Donahue show, the tape. We had a Khalid Muhammad support rally in here. We were using the Donahue show as a case study on how to deal with this Peckerwood on the media. TV talk shows, radio talk shows. And it's because of this brother that so many of us have learned how to confront this enemy and combat him effectively. I think it's up to you right now to show him how much you respect and love him.
I appreciate that. I didn't know that I would get a love offering, but I certainly, in the spirit of love, cannot turn down the love offering. I don't want to discourage love. Come on up here, Brother Scott. Where's Brother Larry? I like Brother Larry to be nearby, especially, where is he? He was here earlier. Come on up, Brother Larry. You got Brother Scott here to come all the way from D.C. Give him a black hand. How much? Brother Scott came in, $20. Give him a strong hand, brothers and sisters. Oh, my God. This Sister Malika, did I get it right? And Brother Ray always supports everything that's for the freedom and independence of our people. And we're at the mosque backing everything up yesterday. Brother Tony spoke highly of them when I arrived in the city, and Minister Wazir, and I didn't even know they had hooked up. They donate $100. Give them a black hand. Brother Dave and Sister Rita Bryant, 100 big ones. Give them a black hand, brothers and sisters. Let me have one of them 40s, brother. It's the Good Life 40s. Yeah, well, Brother who? Brother Sarah put in $20. Give him a black hand. Brother Ashra Kwesi, $20. Give him a black hand. There's Brother Muhammad from Recycling Black Dollars in the house. Give him a black hand. Sister Mary Benton, $50. Give her a black hand.
Where's the love, y'all?
Pina colada. Woo. Woo. Good God from Zion. Let me have a... Oh, they got pina colada and watermelon. Some... All right. I think I'll take a 40 ounce of that, brother. Any more hundreds? 50s. Let's get the hundreds and 50s and let's move quickly to our question and answer period. Hundreds, 50s. What's this queen's name with her hand up? Your name is what? Tamara, Sister Tamara. Thank you. Who will pick the testing? Who will pick the people who will be speaking, and will there be? And what will the points be? What will the points be, point by point, that they will be speaking on? You can rest assured that I won't speak that day. I don't believe I'll say a mumbling word on October the 16th. I just don't believe it. I have no idea who will pick the speakers. I would think that the speakers would be picked by a committee at the national headquarters for the Million Man March in Washington, D.C. I would think that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan would have some major input into that. And I would think that the national director, Ben Chavis, would have some hand in that, and others who will be working on that committee. But I actually do not know the answer to that question, in truth. And I couldn't possibly know point by point which each speaker is going to speak about. Minister Tony Muhammad, my sister Tamara, has raised a good point. Minister Tony is pointing out that the current issue of the Final Call newspaper is a special edition on why a Million Man March addresses so many questions and provides the answers, and perhaps as we go through that, many of the questions we are asking can be answered. I don't think that answer is there, but some of the others might be there. I'd be interested in knowing who's going to speak that day too, and I want to know what the hell they going to say too. I'm like you, Sister Tamara. I sure would. I'd like to get on there and fire it up, but I know I ain't going to say nothing. Brothers and sisters, are we still working on that? And Brother Jamal, if you could get a quick, that's R.E. Lewis and, oh, this is the one that, okay, this was already given the $100. Let's give them a black hand already. Give it. Why don't you get a quick count, and as we take questions, we can see what we have to do further. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, this is all right, brother. has responded? What did Dr. say?
Well, Dr. Blake have endorsed the Million Man March. At the press conference, most of the black churches here had, if the pastor wasn't there, he sent his representative. The only one we haven't heard from, and we're still reaching out for him, is Reverend Price. You know, so we'll give a list. You'll see the list will come out, you know, on everybody that's supporting it. But, you know, again, like Doc said, whether they support it or not, the ship rolls on. You know, maybe they'll be the ones left here with the beach, you know.
Let me get your question, sir. Good evening. Brother's question is, do I know of an organization called the United Nations, the United Nation of Islam, who is headed by a brother by the name of Solomon? If so, what is my impression of him, and have I heard him speak? I have heard him speak on tape, videotape, at Howard University. I have met with him personally, sat with him in the presence of maybe only one or two others. I gave him the utmost respect because that's the way I'm trained and taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I haven't seen him disrespect any of our brothers or sisters who have come to him. I gave Brother Solomon respect, first of all, because he's a black man standing up for black people. I don't have to agree with his ideology 100% to give him my respect. I gave him respect because much of what he teaches comes from the teaching and program of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I have to respect him there. Do I believe that he is Allah in the person, or what do I think of that? Well, that's easy. I don't have to hesitate on that. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, when you look at the black man, you're looking at God. When you look at the black woman, you're looking at the goddess of the universe. He said the same power that set the universe in motion is the same power that operates in you, black woman, and you, black man. The Bible says, let this same mind that is in Christ Jesus be also in you. Let this same mind that is in Christ Jesus be also in you. What mind was in Christ Jesus? The mind of God. And so it's telling you that the mind of God operates in you. You have a higher self and a lower self. The lower self is material and flesh and physical, but the higher self is spiritual and divine. All right? So he says he's Allah in the person. He is. And so are you. But different ones of us manifest that power in varying degrees. I would never argue with my brother and say that he does not have God operating in his person. I don't know if he means more than that, but I think that's quite a bit to even start with. So I could never disrespect him on that count. Our other political prisoner who is locked up, Brother Yahweh bin Yahweh, who was formerly Minister Yulan Shah of Muhammad's Mosque number 15 at Atlanta, Georgia, over the southern region. And now his name is Yahweh bin Yahweh. Yahweh, Bain, in Hebrew, it's Bain instead of bin. And Bain means the son of. God, Bain, God. God, the son of God. You can't argue with this. The man is coming from the root teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. God in the person of the black man. God in the person of the black woman. Islam, I-S-L-A-M. I, self, Lord and Master. I, self, Lord and Master. Allah, you say arm, leg, arm, head. A-L-L-A-H. In the makeup of the human form. So, on that count, I can't argue with him. He says many things. He says the palace where the most honorable Elijah Muhammad has left it to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He says it's time for Minister Farrakhan to move over. That Minister Farrakhan's time is up. That it's time for him to take over. And that the palace in Chicago is the mother plane. It's some ship that's supposed to go up. And he knows where the controls are to fly the house. Well, that's a little deep for me. But I will not be one to criticize him for saying that's his belief. I'm not going to attack him on that. He says he has study groups on all the planets. He said, this is Howard University, I think. He said, I got study groups on all the planets. He said, and I travel up there. I go to all the planets and visit my study groups. So one of the Howard students asked him, say, well, sir, you say you know all. He said, I know all about the universe. The young Howard student said, you know all about the universe? You traveled all up there? He said, well, have you been to the sun? And they claimed that Brother Solomon said, yes, I've been to the sun. The Howard student said, well, it was kind of hot up there, wasn't it? He said, no, I went at nighttime. I'm sorry, it was the ginseng up. That's what it was. I knew I shouldn't have took that ginseng up. I tried the 40 ounce first of juice, and then I ended up with the ginseng up. That's kind of deep for me, but I can't attack him on it. I just leave it alone. Too many crackers for me to attack. Too many white folks for me to crush and beat down. Than to attack my brother. That's his theology. That's his philosophy. That's his doctrine. That's his ideology. He's developing a small following around him. I must give him honor and respect. And I must give honor and respect to those who are with him. And time, which is the great tester of all men and women and their ideas, will test him and his. And we will know for real whether there are people down in the earth as he teaches, or if Minister Farrakhan's house, which is the house of the Nation of Islam, really, will get up and fly one day. We'll know. If we don't know, our children, somebody will know. So that is my answer on Brother Solomon and his teaching and program. I met with him. I wanted to meet with him because I want to know what he taught. So I went and met with him. Now there's something else they say that just kind of worries me. And it's not the ginseng. Talked to one of his followers in Brooklyn. I spoke at the Slave Theater with the warrior lawyer Alton Maddox in Brooklyn. Great black man. And one of the young brothers outside was telling me that he was a follower of Brother Solomon, and they had dinner with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad 3 weeks ago. I said, what? He said, yes, sir. We had dinner with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I said, yeah. I said, how did he look? He said, well, he didn't look like he used to look. He looked different. You know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he was going to come back in a new body. I tried to be tolerant like I was here tonight on that question you just asked me. But I kind of went off on him. I said, brother, you sound like a damn fool. You mean somebody can just bring you somebody to the table and tell you that's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and they don't even have to look like he used to look. They can look like anybody. And they tell you he came back in a new body, and you believe that was him. All right, I'm telling you. I didn't believe either. But I had dinner with him, and he was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's kind of deep for me. I don't understand that. You know, I can't say he didn't have dinner with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but that's kind of deep for me. I need more understanding on that. You just go and get me any man and set him down at a table, and he looks nothing like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And you give me some excuse that Honorable Elijah Muhammad is supposed to come back in a new body. We've been tricked so much until we're skeptical today. So I would need deeper understanding. But again, I would not attack him, at least not at this point. Brother Scott is pulling security with the Gap bag. Oops, upside your head. He's brought $10, a donation from the Gap bag. $10. I'm sorry? All right. Are there any other questions? My brother right here, he's been patient. I'm going to get you, sister, your hands really first. Out of respect to you, Vila. I hear you. Brother, that's a good question. Since I'm the #1 Tom killer in the country, you've asked a question that's close to my heart. It is a day of atonement. And brother has raised a very important point. He said, if it is a day of atonement, and a day when you repent of your sins, your past sins, that some of these who are involved with the Million Man March and some who are out front with the Million Man March have had such a record, some of them even as Tom, sellouts, some who have betrayed our people, stole from our people, and done various things, misusers of our people and black women and all of that. Brother's question is, and I'll meet it head on because it's a legitimate question. It should be raised and it should be answered. His question is, how can we say it's a day of atonement if these men are out front with the march and we've heard nothing about them repenting or atoning for their past sins? Good question. But let's hope that the answer is even better. Look at it. If it's a day of atonement and it's October the 16th, we are told that certainly there are things that we should do leading up to that day and not just wait for October 16th. But October 16th is the declared day of atonement. That is the day that they are to make amends for their transgression, for their sins against the black nation and the God of our ancestors and the black woman. That is the day. It is not something where they have to come out and do it openly and confess to the world, I've been this terrible Tom and forgive me. No, the very fact and the very act of them being a part of the Million Man March. Let's look at Dr. Cornel West for a moment. Dr. Cornel West has been on the point for the Jews, leading the Jews, charged when it came to attacking Minister Louis Farrakhan, his little student, Khalid Muhammad, and others. It was from this city that Attorney LeGrand Clay and others wrote an open letter that appeared in the Final Call newspaper, challenging Dr. Cornel West to stop being on the point for white folks. The main two on the point, there were really three. I'll only name two here tonight, but there were main three, but two of them were Dr. Cornel West and Dr. Henry Louis Gates at Harvard University, and one other that we're all familiar with. Cornel West has stepped out, supporting the Million Man March, saying things strong that I have never heard him say. When I saw Dr. Cornel West, Dr. Ben Chase, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on BET, I was surprised that it was Minister Farrakhan and Dr. Chavis that talked about all of the aspects of the march. I was surprised when Cornel West said out of his mouth, "It's a day to make America know her sins." I say, is this Cornel East, South, North, not West? I said, that's Cornel West. I've seen Minister Farrakhan sit down with people and transform them just like that. I've sat down at the table with him, I'll confess, with people years back that I wanted to kill because they were in such opposition to him. I just wanted to offer, kill them straight up. I've cried I wanted to kill him so bad. And he said, no, brother. He said, we can't kill everybody. Won't be nobody left. He said, we got to have time to work with them. And years have passed by, maybe 10 years. And I'm sitting down at the dinner table at the home of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is living today. And that same brother, he's sitting at the table. Totally different man, totally different stand. And I sit there with tears running down my face, looking at him when he leaves, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, say, now come here, brother. He said, now you see, you wanted to kill so-and-so 10 years ago. He said, you see where he is today? So my point here is, I was hard on Reverend Chavis. The only reason I don't say nothing about him now, I'm giving him a chance to atone October 16th. If they come back from D.C. Toms on October 17th, then I'm back on them again. But because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has developed an African United Front and a Black United Front with them, I keep my mouth shut. I don't attack them anymore. I talked about the hot sauce Toms and the tartar sauce Toms. The tartar sauce Toms I talked about were real weak, but the hot sauce Toms had a little spice and a little flavor with their tongue. I don't deal with it. So October 16th is the day officially declared as the Day of Atonement. And the fact that they are participating and that they will be there and they will let the slave masters see them there, aligned with Farrakhan, is a big, giant step. And I believe in their hearts, Toms will atone that day. I believe sissies will straighten up that day. Their wrists will straighten up. Oh, yes, I got faith. Church will be different when they go back. They in church now talking about amen, honey. Amen. And most of the time, that's just what they want, is amen. So let's give them a chance, brother. Let's give them a chance and see. Some of them might not even show up October 16th. Might change their mind on October 15th. But let's give them a chance. We can never form a Black United Front if we don't give them a chance. Everybody among us deserves a chance. All right? my sister who had her hand up from the very beginning. That's Tobias. I remember you, Tobias. I missed that. I missed what she said. All right, so you understand. You're going to ask nothing?
That's right. Thank you, sister. We're in agreement. Thank you, sister. Thank you. We got the brothers back. We are. We take the
Go ahead. What are you saying, sister? I'm going to let the sisters answer these questions. Go ahead, sister.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me. Sister, what is the talk in Pacific Palisades? A renewed, well, not renewed, but there would be for the first time a new respect for the black man, the black woman, and the black nation in general. Since our vote will not be a vote that can be taken for granted, I'm not a voter. But since the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan called for us to register to vote independent, then under his command and call, I will vote, though I have never voted before. But he has taught us that our vote will be a cocked hammer. It will be a political weapon, he says. It will be a vote that we can leverage, and we will establish a black agenda. And then the establishing of a black political agenda, then we will be able to determine, as Malcolm used to say, we'll be able to determine who goes to the White House and who goes to the doghouse. And that kind of leveraging we have never had before. And so we should expect from the United States government a respect for the black man and woman that they've never had before, a fear, an increased fear, because they've always feared, an increased fear from the black man and woman, and an increased fear from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who could give a call that would transcend religious boundaries. Artificial barriers fall down. Black men come together from every denomination, every religion, every walk of life. That is something to be feared. When Jesus raised Lazarus from the grave, which is symbolic in the scriptures, and say Lazarus was dead for 4 days. The 4 days represent 400 years that we've been in the grave of mental and spiritual death under the white man here in America. And if you remember, sisters, listen to me. If you remember, the women were alive. Mary and Martha were alive. Their brother Lazarus was dead. And we sing the song in the church, "Oh Mary, don't you weep, oh Martha, don't you moan." And the shortest scripture in the Bible is Jesus wept. That's the one you know you got to say your blessing before you reach your hand on that table to get one of them buttered biscuits or a piece of that cornbread or cream of wheat bread. You got to say your blessing. Or ear of that corn. So you say the shortest one you can. You got your eye on that thick piece of corn. You say Jesus wept. and you reach at the same time. So the Bible says Jesus wept. Jesus cried. Mary was weeping and Martha was mourning. Why were they weeping and mourning, and why was Jesus weeping? The scripture says because Lazarus was dead. And so the question is, who is this Lazarus in the Bible? Lazarus is the black man in the Bible. And it was the women, the sisters of Lazarus. That's why we must go on October 16th. It was the sisters of Lazarus who met the master and told the master that their brother was dead. And they said, if you had been here, master, he never would have died. And they showed Jesus, the master, where Lazarus was buried. They took him to the grave where their brother was dead. And it was Jesus who called Lazarus forth from the grave and said, Lazarus, come forth. That's October 16th. Loosen Satan and let him go. But it was the black women, Mary and Martha, wide awake, alive. You're not as dead as we are, black woman. Oh, no. You're tuned in to the divine, universal, and cosmological order of things. You've carried this thing and carried us all this time. That's why the Bible is full of women. There ain't no man around. Mary had to take care of Jesus. Joseph was gone somewhere. Huh? That's the book. That's the book. A woman had to take Moses and get him out of the bushes and the bulrushes. Huh? There's something special in the woman. Ain't no question about that. Look at O.J. Simpson's wife, the black wife. Special quality in that black wife. They can't drag her to the courtroom to testify against it. Even though the nigga dogged her, even though the nigga dissed her, even though the nigga took his money and spent it on that blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pale-skinned, buttermilk complexion, straight up but straight down, Miss 6 o'clock, ironing board backside, no frills, no thrills, white woman who was nothing but a glorified whore and a waitress at the Mezzaluna Cafe, serving tables and serving every man that sat down at the table. And he took that whore. That's not cursing. The Bible calls it whore. He took that whore and gave her all of his money. He gave her ugly white mama his money, her ugly white daddy his money, the ugly whoring sisters his money. And now all of them have turned against him. And that black woman is remaining solid and firm at his side to this very day. What is the point that I'm making? The point that I'm making here is that the black woman is awake. It was Hiram, the Masons and the Eastern Stars say. It was Hiram Abiff who was hit in the head at the East Gate, carried on the westernly course, buried in the north corner, under the old rubbish heap where there is no light. Huh? Okay. Gotcha. You have to understand, brothers and sisters, my sister, in wrapping that up, that the government will fear us more because of our unity. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said our unity is more powerful than hydrogen and atomic bombs. What should we expect from us? A renewed spirit, revitalization, rejuvenation from the black nation. We'll have greater and increased faith and self-pride and confidence. We will have done something in unity that will have shocked and astounded and overwhelmed the world. And we'll be hyped, we'll be pumped to a new rhythm and a new beat to do something for self when we come back. We believe that there'll be a higher level of consciousness and spirituality and power in the black nation. Thank you for your question. Brothers and sisters, we've got to wrap everything up. How many more questions we have? Is that it? I've got to wrap. Mother, I have to take your question. I got to take your question, Mother. Yes, ma'am. That's right. Good point, sister. Ashe, ashe, ashe. It is not just the leaders who must atone. Brothers and sisters who are in prison are told that that day they should fast from sun up to sundown. There should be no bloodletting, no fratricide, no fighting, no hits going out that day. All of this should cease in the prisons that day. We are told that every black man and woman across America, we're not trying to make all of Muslims and join the mosque, but they should go to every church, every black church, every black synagogue, every black temple, every black house where God's name is remembered and honored. And there should be repentance and atonement individually all across America. This is something between you and your God, the God that is within yourself. That has nothing to do with the big leader and the Tom leader and the gangbanger and the one dealing death. Everybody has to atone on that day. Nobody escapes in the black nation. Yes, sir, brother. Please, sir. Yes, sir. I apologize.
When the prince came to me and said, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the land, or their abominations, and they have taken their daughters in marriage for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed has been mixed with the people of the land.
Ooh. That's the O.J. Simpson syndrome. That's what it's speaking to in the Torah, in the book of Ezra. What chapter in Ezra? Chapter 10 in the book of Ezra. The entire chapter. With God from Zion. Brother, your hand is the last hand. Let us, I don't know how you normally close, Brother Jamal. Going to have you to come. Harambe? All right, let us stand as I take brother's question and we prepare to close out. Minister Tony Muhammad is new on board, and I know him to be a man who returns phone calls. Since I'm closing out this session, I know him to be a man who returns phone calls, and I know what moves him. And I know what you just said, the two simple solutions. We don't find them so simple. And I believe he would be one of the first to say, brother, we need you to come in and help us and teach us and make sure that we're prepared in every way, and we prepare. This is a man of influence and power who touches many lives, and his captain is here, Captain Hugh Muhammad. They touch many lives, and I believe it is necessary for you to exchange information so that, and it's also important for us when we know that it's that kind of powerful pillar organization in the community, not just to call them, brother. If it's that important, you know where the mosque is, go right to the mosque and look him in the face, whoever the minister is or the captain, and say, sir, this is something I want to offer here, some information. I've called, nobody has answered me, and I came today because this is too important for me to just let it go and say I called and nobody answered. But tonight, I believe you exchange information with him just coming to the city on post. You'll find a different caliber of focus in Minister Tony Muhammad. Okay, and make sure the two of you get together. Brothers and sisters, let us put our black fists in the air. We're going to close with 7 Harambe. And Harambe in Kiswahili means let us all pull together. We pull 6 times, and on the 7th one, we hold it. On the count of 3, Jali, 2, Harambe, 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 Harambe! Thank you, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum. Tuchal Nana, and Dugu Dada, and Odabo. Brothers and sisters, let us finish some of the questions and answers and the social period on the parking lot. And we need to clean up here quickly. Please move quickly to the door. We have gone beyond the time. Brothers and sisters, let us move to the parking lot. Don't go, please, let me come up. Let us move to the parking lot. Let us move to the parking lot. Everybody. And I love your watermelon. Parking lot.